Welcome everyone to a new episode of DT Vector, the podcast where we explore the people, technologies, financing, and ideas that are shaping the future of the built world. Everyone talks about innovation in real estate and construction, but why does the industry still struggle with fragmentation, slow adoption, and disconnected ecosystem? Our guest today believes that the answer is not only technology, but collaboration, community, and the ability to connect people, ideas, and markets. I'm Eugen Ursu, your host, and today I'm joined by Idriss Goossens. He's the founder of Tech Lab Belgium. He's an ecosystem builder, a startup advisor, and one of the most active voices that are connecting the innovation startups and urban transformation initiatives across Europe. Idris, welcome to DT Vector. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you, Eugene. It's my pleasure. Happy to be here.
That's great. So let's dive in, let's say, the origins, your motivation, and you've built multiple initiatives around the PropTech and innovation ecosystem. What originally attracted you to the real estate and construction industry?
Sure, that's more than 10 years jump in the past, I think. But I was always an entrepreneur. I was always interested to launch things, project companies. So when I was at university 12 years ago or something, I wanted free clothes. So I co-founded a clothing company, and then I wanted to travel for free. And so I contacted a multinational doing travel events for students. And so I told them, look, I will open Belgium. I will manage this country. This is my action plan. This is my rate. And so I launched the subsidiary company while I was a student. It was really great. We organized spring break in Croatia, 3,000 people, etc. But when I graduated, I wanted to do something a bit more serious. So I went to diplomacy. I did 3 months at the Foreign Affairs Ministry, and I thought, okay, it's not for me. It's very slow, no impact, and I want to have an impact, right? So I really wanted to have something where I can feel the results of what I'm doing. And so I arrived by accident into this PropTech system, but back then the word PropTech didn't even exist. So I joined the first startup, which was B Park in the parking mutualization. So taking empty parkings and manage them to optimize the rent. And this was more than 10 years ago. And so I created the French market for them. I opened Marseille. I had 9 months, 50,000 euros to create profitability. So I created 3 parkings in 6 months. And then I joined Aproplan, which became after Let's Build, which was one of the first collaborative platforms for construction sites management. So to manage collaboration between general contractor, developer, architect, engineer to track all of the non-conformities and the workflow, etc. So again, this was also early days, I guess 9, 10 years ago or so. And so because of these two experiences, I understood that something unique was happening. It was the beginning of this digital environmental transformation of construction and real estate. And so I wanted to help the sector to become more modern, more customer centric, more sustainable, more digital native. And so I created 87. Back then it was called PropTech Lab. And so that was more than 8 years ago because I really wanted to help the sector to innovate. On one side, so we have a myriad of new solutions, startups experimenting new process, new tools, new product, new services, etc. And on the other side, you have a lot of corporates asking themselves, but what is this new PropTech thing? Where to start? What are the new business models? What are the relevant technologies? So I created 87 just to gather them and to make sure that we can increase the innovation maturity. And then I did a lot of things, a lot of huge sicknesses, etc. But this was the origin.
And is 87 an NGO, a company? How does it work?
No, it's a for-profit company. You have pros and cons about this, but we created Seven as a for-profit company with the ambitions to really scale, to have important impact, important revenue, and a real startup story. So we raised money as well. And I believe that the NGO often have a very limited lifetime value in some way, because after certain years, after a limited period of time, the social object of the NGO has been achieved, has been reached. So maybe in the early days, about raising awareness of what is PropTech. It may be also helping startups to get brand recognition. But after a few years, startups don't need you anymore. If you help them well, if you worked well, everybody knows the startup in your local market. And also the corporate, they know the new business model, they know the technology. So your non-profit organization has reached the purpose, which is awareness. And yeah, we wanted to be a for-profit, also giving us full ownership of what we do. Because non-for-profit is governance problems. All of the members have to decide. So you're maybe slower as well, less agile. So yeah.
And what is the, let's say, the vision around 87?
Vision is very simple. We have in the world around 10,000 tech solutions that exist. We have database of close to 8,000 that we monitor every day. This is where the trend is the future. So on one hand, you have a lot of solutions, but on the other hand, there is a lot of problems. Construction and real estate is the biggest sector in the world, but it is also the least digitized, the most polluting. Not only the 40% CO2 emissions, it's 50% for materials extraction, 30% of waste, 30% of resources, etc. And the problems that we have today in the construction and real estate sector will only accelerate in the coming years. There is a lot of very scary numbers. We have to decarbonize by 2030 by more than 50%, or we have 2.7-degree increase on Earth. But we have also something like 2 billion of new people that can live on Earth by 2050. 2 billion of new people. This means we need to build every day something like 14,000 net every single day for the next 24 years in order to be able to house the 2 billion of new people. And we're nowhere near. So we need to automate, etc. We have to renovate of the existing buildings. Certainly, now that in Europe, you have around 221 million buildings, is like 85% of all of the stock, which were built before 2001, which are below the EPC standard, etc. So there is a lot of big challenge. And also, I think the one that concern a lot of the young people is the cost of living, etc. So given the fact that on one hand you have a lot of solutions, and on the other hand you have a lot of power, our vision is only to create the connections that matter, to connect the relevant people together that can solve the big problem. Because we have a one conviction, which is that when you gather the right people in the same room, the magic can really happen to be what you want to be the spark that connects relevant people, because we know them and we know that.
And didn't in the early days, did people immediately understand the vision, or did you first have to convince the market that this transformation was necessary?
I think at first we always had such a vision, but it came more clear and clear years after years. We also had to learn a lot of things. So our narrative was maybe not the sharpest possible as of day one, of course, but we've seen that you always had different innovation maturity or interest from different type of people in the construction and real estate value chain. You always had, since the beginning, a few key people that really understood that something was going to happen, the pioneers. And so you always have, and this still today, very conservative people that have the mentality, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Why should I change things that I've been doing during the past 40 years, etc., etc. And so in order to map this, in order to understand this, in order to bring more clarity and fact, we created a ranking on the most innovative companies. So we built basically a model to say, do you have a chief innovation officer? A person full-time FTE, full-time dedicated to innovation? Do you have a clear innovation focus? Do you have a clear innovation strategy? Do you have a budget allocated to innovation? Is innovation part of the executive committee agenda, etc.? And based on the answers, we could map where you are, and we see that year after year, the innovation increased. More and more people were from the beginners, I would say, of innovation, all the way to the pioneers. We mapped 5 stages, and we had more and more people becoming more and more mature, which is normal, and it's a good thing to see. And hopefully we helped a little bit on this effort as well.
Looking back, what was the one early sign that made you think, okay, the ecosystem is finally starting to move?
It's a difficult question because we're not there yet. Of course, we grow a lot and there is a lot of good things, but there is also a market reality. There is a big crisis, etc. But fast track 8 years, I think when we initially started, it was consulting service. So we help developers, brokers, property managers, whatever, to install a CRM or a ERP. So it was about digitizing tools and process as consultant. Then we thought, okay, it's not scalable. Let's install a membership. So we started this. We got 50 company members, 100 company members. Then we launched an advisory board because we felt we need to have a bit more substance in what we do, make sure that we are relevant for the sector, that what we do is the most strategic possible. Then we got to 200 company members. We launched a platform for the members with a lot of data. Then we acquired PropTech from Luxembourg. Then we expanded to Czechia. We launched Spain, Portugal. Today we have more than 300 company members, which is great, of course. But what we also see that the market is really evolving now. So when we launched, it was all about efficiency. So in 2000, so digitized tools, process, install ERP, CRM, and things like this. Then in 2017, we had the feeling that there was a new obsession from the construction and real estate corporates. It was the customer centricity. So understand who will be the end users. What are their needs? How can we serve better their needs? How can we shift from a product-centric approach to a customer-centric approach? So these were the years where the mentality of developers, mainly, that in the past, they were thinking the fact that I'm here means I'm valid. I will build something, it will be used. I don't need to know who will be the end users. So they started to challenge this mentality. Gradually, they had to understand, okay, we need to know who will be the end users to serve better their needs. So this was 2017. And then in 2019, it was the beginning of the ESG transformation. All of a sudden, what is this ESG thing? How can we have social, environmental impact, and the regulation and the pressure and all of that? And then starting from 2020, the AI, right? How is AI going to affect my company? And so this became again a CEO topic. While efficiency, it was a CEO topic only in 2015, and then it became a topic for head of IT, nerds, geeks, but not a CEO topic anymore. It was almost boring. But then AI made efficiency, automation, becoming digital native, etc., again a CEO topic. And so the AI topic remains number one priority for years. It's still the case now, and now it's all about agentic. And now companies have an AI transformation budget, etc. But we see one new thing in 26, which is everything related to the defense, right? So the energy sovereignty, the tech sovereignty, the infrastructure, and how can real estate grab a little bit of shares of the budget allocated to defense? So we see almost defense like a next natural extension of PropTech. Climate tech was a natural extension to PropTech in 2022, 2021. And so the big topic now is everything about dual usage. So can this PropTech company be useful in the case of conflict? Or can this parking be used as bunkers or energy production centers or storage or factories of drones of hospitals or whatever? So more and more we see these trends. This to say that there was not one moment where we felt, okay, we achieved, we won. No, we have to constantly reinvent ourselves to constantly be relevant. Because if we don't adapt our narrative and expertise on the new things, we just become as being. What we say was interesting 2 years ago, but not anymore. So it's a lot of trend watching, market research, but in the end, we're not the experts. Our members are the experts. The only thing we do is connect the relevant people.
And regarding, let's say, we all can see that innovation still struggles in real estate, in construction. Why do you think this gap still exists? It's around what's happening in, let's say, with the wars, with the, let's say, the prices here in Europe.
If we look at construction specifically, so really the core business of the architect, the engineer, the general contractor, really the construction phase, I think we have to keep in mind that it's a very complex business with very low margins, 3 to 6% at company level and sometimes negative at project level. they are under a lot of pressure for supply chain, for materials, cost of materials as well, cost of foremen, so construction site workers, etc. You have also important elements, which is that you have an aging workforce. So you have a lot of people with plus 45, 50 years old, etc. in construction site, with maybe less digital adoption. All of this makes it normal that the digital transformation is slow. You will not, if you do any small mistake, it can cost a lot of money for them. To ask them to add additional complexity and to risk to lose the margin. So we have a lot of stories of a developer who wants, for instance, to install part of the building with prefab modular upside construction. And then the general contractor says, look, we have already 3% margin only. Okay. You want additional complexity, additional risk. Okay. But it will be more expensive, 25% more expensive than the traditional because we take more risk. And so the developer is okay. Then we go for traditional. So sometimes it's just a risk alignment problem, margin alignment problem. But we see a few companies which are very innovative, which are full force on BIM, on automation, on 5D BIM, on also the offsite construction. And more this year, we see people active in the humanoid. So physical AI. So we were speaking about robotization, etc. for a bit of years already, but it didn't really made a breakthrough. It's not like that we see robots in construction sites really working yet. But now with the AI, with AI implementation, first generative AI and then agentic AI, now comes physical AI, which means it's really humanoids or robots that can assemble parts of buildings in construction sites. And so we think, and we see a lot of general contractors that are now really looking at this because it can be cheaper than human labor, because it can be more efficient, less mistakes, less accidents as well, and can work 24/7 or at least during the duration of the battery. So yeah, you see more, but it's slow to adapt. I think for the reasons I mentioned, so low margins, complexity, aging workforce, and topics like this.
And where the innovation happens, what are the main drivers for that? From what you've seen in the market at your clients, who adopts faster and why?
It's a large question. You have small, if we, in general, or you want to speak about a specific general contractor? Is it like anyone in real estate or one core business in particular?
Let's go specific if possible. If you have specific examples. After that, we'll talk maybe you're present in more countries in Europe and maybe we'll see how things are happening at the, let's say, country level or in different areas.
Okay. So if we speak specifically for construction, I think it all starts by having a clear vision on where you want to go. What is your innovation drivers? Why do you want to innovate? What is it that you want to achieve? So Basics has a very clear vision of innovation and a very clear innovation strategy. Also Furnibo, and Furnibo is a smaller scale company, I think 100 employees. Basics is 15,000. But even if you're smaller, you can really be willing to have a great innovation strategy. So Furnibo, what they want to do is build predictability. So they want to know upfront, really precisely, how is the construction site going to happen and be the most prepared possible so there is no surprise. So cost, delays, everything should be handled. And so they should be super prepared because the problem you see often in construction is that in the beginning of the project, it's very easy to do changes. And it's also super affordable to do change. The cost of change is zero. But the more you advance on a project, the less easy it is to make change and the most expensive it is to make change. And often changes happen a bit in the middle where you have to adapt, etc. And so the idea of your niveau, to give an example, is to shift the modifications towards the earliest possible in the value chain, where it is cheap and easy to change anything. But you have also Mota and Gil, the largest construction company in Portugal. It's around 6 billion euro turnover. And so they build Next, which is the innovation office of Mota and Gil. And so it acts as a CIT Blaton in Belgium as a similar strategy. So imagine you build a new company, which is like an innovation agency that will help the general contractor headquarters to innovate. So almost like a startup studio, you will launch solution based on the needs of the people. And they launch, for instance, King of Dashboards. So the idea is that Mota and Jill can produce dashboards for all the dashboards that the general contractor wants. You want dashboard with the non-conformities, the schedules, delays, the whatever, they can build dashboards. And many other examples. We have also Cordel that understood that the margins are decreasing. So Cordel is 700 million euro turnover, a Belgian company, but active also in Eastern Europe. And so they understood that the margins are decreasing in construction and real estate. So they had the idea to integrate the value chain, and so to become also partly developer, but also to launch additional business lines which are adjacent to their core business. A little bit like an incubation strategy almost, to serve your client before and after your core business. So they launched their energy strategy, they have PFAS-free extinctors. So in every project that they deliver, they need to have fire extinctors. And so they also provide them. They have a prefab solution. They have a group of 12 affiliates startups that they either create or acquired, which are around their core business to keep captive their client and to integrate the value chain. And it's often in these small companies around the main core business that the margins are higher and that the profitability of the company actually is not in the core business, is in the small companies around.
So we can say that the real problem, it's not technology or adopting it, it's about the culture and the strategy. Because if you want to be relevant in every space, at one point you need to adapt, and you need a, let's say, a strategy and a culture that helps you with that.
And I think you need a great CEO that has a great vision, definitely. Also, if it's possible to have a board which is supportive or shareholders which are willing to take risk. So maybe sometimes family-owned business are a bit more, it depends. But sometimes it's great to have alignment between the executives and the shareholders if you want to really achieve innovation. And I think it's important to understand that innovation is not important. What is important is business growth. And innovation is the only way to continue to grow the business in difficult market conditions. So I think it's very important to keep this in mind. It's not the shiny object syndrome. Let's do something. I will quote also Rui, the CEO of Tangier. So he says, innovation is not to do like fireworks. Fireworks only makes money if you're a firework company. But often the innovation is the most boring things where you can solve actual real problems and have an impact. It's not the shiny object. But I think what we hear a lot from our corporates is in the end, the change management, because people, of course, struggle to change the way they do business every day. So the new tools, the new process, etc. So there is what the head of innovation or chief innovation people from our ecosystem are often complaining about is the fact that there is an inertia to change. There is a reluctance to change from inside the company. And you need to understand it, and you need to build private projects, have internal champions, and spend a lot of time evangelizing. So yeah, that's, I think, a big problem for innovation.
Talking about, let's say, good cultures, but maybe have you ever walked into an organization and immediately realized that this company is not ready for transformation?
Yeah, of course. When COVID started, we had an idea. We thought, okay, let's build a list of the 300 most important real estate construction people in Belgium, which are not members. Let's send them a paper letter, printed paper letter, old school, with a small invitation to the Silex Award. Silex Award was the ceremony rewarding the least digitized, the least innovative people from construction and real estate, and rewarded them for their tenacity to keep working with pen and paper, to resist to modernization. We will not use digital tools. We stick to pen and paper. And so we had a picture of Cro-Magnon prehistoric humans having a big silex, a big stone, winning the award. And so then we published on social media a lot of visuals with a Cro-Magnon person in a construction site, or you have a city and then you have a big silex, which is another building in the city, or a lot of visuals like this You have a real estate broker trying to sell a home with like the weapon of a Cro-Magnon, etc. And so the message was, don't be stuck in the Stone Age, become a member now. And I think, and first it works really well. We had about 30 corporate members at once. But most importantly, the momentum was key. COVID created a jump of 2-3 years of digital adoption at once. Contracts were now sent to DocuSign or other solutions. All of the team meetings were done digitally. People were forced to adopt innovation. And so even the least digitized company understood that, okay, it's a survival question. Now people maybe forgot it a little bit, but innovation is always a question of survival in an industry where the business is difficult, the margins are smaller and smaller. You have to innovate if you want to continue to exist and to grow. I think the biggest company by market cap keep the same revenue just thanks to innovation. They don't, so without innovation, they would be dying. So it's just to stay alive and not even for market growth. So yeah. And often if the people really have no interest in innovation, and we mentioned then some of the problems that they might have, and if they don't acknowledge that they have no problem, then we say, okay, then no, let's not waste each other time. The purpose of you becoming a member is to meet relevant people for you. But if you don't need anyone, then you don't need to continue the call. So it happens as well.
Congrats on the campaign. That was quite bold. And I'm sure you've got a lot of different reactions out of that. But are these days still misconceptions about PropTech that are frustrating you on the day-to-day business?
I think it depends on the markets, but I think now we were saying in 2012, Andreessen Horowitz was saying software is eating the world. So 10 years later, in let's say 2022 or something like this, we were saying PropTech is eating the real estate. Or PropTech is eating the world in the end, because the complete world is real estate. The complete built world is real estate. It's not only the office home, it's the infrastructure where you commute, the bridge, it's everything, right? The complete built world. And so our theory in 2012 was that every core businesses of construction and real estate, from the architects all of the way to the asset manager, landlord, and user, would be forced to become digital native, tech powered, to adopt new tools, new process, etc. And that in the end, you cannot build any real estate without deploying a certain dimension of PropTech. Like you need glass, you need ceilings, you need floor, you need aluminum, you need PropTech. Same mandatory ingredient. But what was the question again?
Well, what misconceptions are frustrating?
Yeah, and so, however, this was the thesis, but what we have seen is that a lot of people consider that this PropTech thing was interesting for them, but only intellectually. It's only outside of the business hours to read about the future, almost science fiction or relevant, but not to them. Not to me as an architect, not to me as an engineer or as a general contractor, as a developer. Maybe my CEO should take care of this, or maybe in a few years we should look at it, but it didn't resonate enough to them. And so that's why we also rebranded as 87, because first, a lot of people consider that PropTech is only property technology, so only the high-tech innovations for building, not for construction, so not covering the full value chain. So there is first a definition problem there. And also a lot of people consider it's only high-tech innovations, only software, maybe a little bit of hardware, maybe AI, robotics, all of the low-tech innovations. It's also offsite construction, prefab, modular, low-carbon materials, etc. And also the business models, co-living, co-working, mutualization of parking, co-cooking, whatever. So we wanted to have a bit of a more broad definition. So that's why we rebranded as 87, with the reference that we spend 87% of our time indoor. So it means if you can, in the course of our life, so it's really the only sector that dominates all of the aspects of our daily life as individuals. So if you can improve construction and real estate, you can improve up to 87% of life of people. But so I think that these innovations are nice to have, that it's interesting intellectually, but not relevant for them, even though they have now like a lot of developers have, almost all of the developers, the engineers have head of ESG or sustainability, for instance, which is new skills. So that were created. So we see that they incorporate part of the PropTech transformation as a core skill with a job title that was created and all of that. But yeah, what frustration we have is that when we run our AI transformation workshop, we still have a lot of people thinking that, for instance, the data is paperwork. It's a administrative burden, etc. They don't treat data as an infrastructure. And so we keep telling them that, look, if you have good data, without data, you have no AI. Without good data, you have no good AI. And so data is not paperwork. Data is an infrastructure. It's a valuable asset. And so when you want to sell your 100 million building, you can have 3 to 5% discounts because of data opacity. So if you don't provide enough data on the building, so you have the same bricks, but you don't have the data, then investors will look 3 to 5% discount on that same building. So this is part of the intangible value of real estate. You don't only sell bricks, you also sell the data that goes with it. So this is, I think, today our biggest frustration. But it's a learning curve. It's a moving target. You have new things, new skills appearing every year. So it's chasing ghosts. It's constantly, you're never there.
And do you think that AI will help with that? Because, okay, nowadays more and more are asking ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever, on the how should they do an appointment to a doctor on the day-to-day activity with groceries, with everything, recipes, and so on. And do you see this trend going in real estate, in construction companies as
Yeah, for sure. The adoption is very fast. There is a little bit of, there is maybe a couple of dimensions we have to mention here. First, I think, of course, there is a lot of skepticism on the topics related to hallucinations. And so there is this study of Microsoft 42, Microsoft 52 that was recently published, explaining that all of the large language models, all of the AI solutions on the market hallucinate. And in fact, they made a study with 52 different professions, so accounting, legal, whatever, 2 different core businesses. And they've seen that the workflow, once it has reached 20 interaction, is 25% corrupted. So if you ask to build a contract and you ask after 20 steps your workflow, so your final contract will be 25 corrupted compared to the first version of it. And these are small details that you don't see. For instance, after signing becomes before signing or topics like this. So the hallucinations is a big problem. And the other problem is, of course, the availability. Launched at 87 a lot of apps with different base 44 or Lovable or Famous AI or these solutions. And all of a sudden, when Cloud Player is not available, all of your apps disappear. And so we see that Cloud every month has at least 1 hour of unavailable every month. And I've seen the report, it's actually way more than 1 hour, but every month for sure there is 1 hour where Cloud is not available. And so I think the problem is that we don't understand the perimeter of AI yet. It's a bit like, and this is what Dror Poleg is saying, for me, it's always a sort of inspiration. It's if you provide to someone unlimited electricity, the person would not know what to do with that. And so it's the same with AI. We have unlimited intelligence almost, and we don't really know what to do with it yet. But we also treat AI like if it would be an infinite resource. And I think it's not the case because every token costs energy, has a cost for OpenAI or Anthropic or the other companies. So it has a big cost for them. But it's also water, also energy. The grid is not equipped for too much electricity demand. So there is a lot of physical consequence on the AI adoption. And so I think in the future, we will not be able to use AI for stupid things anymore. We will only be able to use AI for the things which are very difficult to do that almost humans cannot do because it will be too expensive to do AI for stupid things. Today, My kid is asking me, can you show me what an elephant with a face of a giraffe and some legs of a dog is looking like? And so I have to ask ChatGPT, build me a visual for that. I think soon it will be finished this time because this is not sustainable.
Do you see this trend in, let's say, prop tech community as well? Because from in the past, let's say 6 months, 1 year, a lot of technical guys from construction, engineering, as well, are now software developers and building a platform.
Mhm.
Do you see this
Yeah,
trend as well?
absolutely. It's really the SaaS apocalypse, right? In the AI transformation workshop that we do for developers, for general contractors, asset managers, we often have companies saying, hey, in the past, we would have a budget allocated for software, external vendors, and today we decide to use this budget to build our own solution with pure code because it's way cheaper. We can do it ourselves and based on our needs, etc. We definitely see a big trend like this, but we also see a lot of the software solutions are developing. So a lot of PropTech companies are developing their own AI upgrades or other solutions. And for instance, another scale, but HubSpot, CRM, why would you need HubSpot today? Because you can build your own HubSpot with Cloud in a few hours, right? Cloud code. But what HubSpot is now doing is also advising you with an agent saying, hey, your email object is too long, your body have a weak call to action, etc. So they have an AI agent that will, on top of the tool, serve you with additional value. So there is also this, which is interesting to see. But there is another component that I think we should keep in mind when we analyze the consequence of AI in construction, real estate, in cities, and in PropTech is first the topic of evolution of the needs of the square meters and the land use consequence of AI. And also, I think the opportunity of AI as a new asset class to build data centers, to build light factories or location or topics like this. But if we start with the beginning, the number one, and this is also coming from our colleague. So he's saying that there is a gap between the world we build and the world we live in. The world we build with the regulation of zonings is based on the concept that you had a lot of you had a lot of fixed schedules of workers going into that part of the city, doing this job, during these hours, and everything was very predictable, was very stable. We are same workers, same kind of task, etc. So you could build zoning in the city based on the actual usage of the square meters. But now AI injects a lot of uncertainties in almost all of the professions. And you have the creation, so the birth and the death of companies, which has crazily accelerated. Today, you could create one company every month if you wanted. You can become a 1% unicorn. It was not possible in the past. And so it has a consequence that the square meters needs are way more volatile than in the past. And so we think every city should do like maybe Tokyo does, where municipality gives a permit on the shape of the building, but not on the affectation, not on the usage. Because you don't know if it will be a co-working, residential, if it will be a brunch restaurant. This will depend on the needs of the people. It should be flexible, evolutive. You can hyper-personalize it. And so this is also very important to take into account that there is a rising gap between the world we build and the world we live in. Though society is changing so fast, AI, it's been 5 years that we speak about this, and now Elon Musk wants to send the data centers in space. So in just a few years. So I think we have to keep in mind that our world is changing so fast that we cannot build based on past assumptions anymore. We need to adapt. We need to constantly evolve. So I think this is important to remind. So the land use should be rethought. Future of the city should be rethought. That's also what we want to do at the 87 Day in September. And second message was also the opportunity of residential, office, etc. And now, of course, the new opportunity is everything related to data centers. So how can you have co-location or build hyper skill campus? Or how can you become an expert in grids or energy infrastructure? So instead of developing a building, you develop grid infrastructure. It's the same process of getting a permit, do the investment, feasibility, deliver the asset class. So it becomes a new asset class. And we don't see enough big opportunities being handled there, I think, in Europe. So I think we're 3 to 5 years behind the US in this topic. And
I was curious about your perspective around this. How are things in Europe? How can we compete, if we can, with US or China? And maybe to, if you will, to speak a little bit about your platform, because you developed a platform with a lot of information, and maybe to speak how that's, what information does that platform gathers and how that can be helpful.
okay,
So a lot of questions.
you
Let's
know,
start with the let's start with the platform, and after we'll see, maybe we can understand the differences between countries here in Romania and Europe, and maybe after that to speak a bit about
so
what we're finding in the world.
yeah, happy to, of course. And feel free, you can shoot more than two questions. I'm there. I'm all yours. What the platform does is very easy. You take a membership and you have access to three pillars of value. You have access to a platform, which is like a social network and a knowledge library, where you have database of all of the company members, but also what they need, what they offer. And so this is more than 900 person of contact with contact details that you can reach out to. So imagine your network can do 10 times in just 2 days. Thanks to this, we can really target relevant people per geography, core business, asset class, etc. But we offer also a lot of market intelligence. So for instance, you have all of the 65,000 certified buildings of Europe, which are listed there. So that's 100% of the market that exists, whether it is certified LEED, BREEAM, SmartScore, WiredScore, P12, etc. All of the certifications, and you can see the details. You can build portfolios. So I want all of the details of Merlin Properties or Metro Vacesa. You can have all of the certified buildings. And so that is useful for developer to assess the ambitions they want to get when they want to have a certification to differentiate from competition. But it's even more interesting for startups because they can target buildings where they know that they can be relevant. So we have way more data like this. That's a platform, but I think the real value is rather the events that we do. So we have 15 events per year for the members because we think that they have to meet physically. They can join remote to have the contents, but we really want people to meet physically because we think in real estate, it's the meeting that creates the opportunity. Even if you already know the person, the fact that you will sit next to that person for 1 hour will create a business opportunity. By the way, you don't know that building that we recently acquired? What is that you do again? Energy storage. With the war in Iran and Strait of Hormuz, I'm really concerned about price of energy. I really want energy storage. So let's meet after the event, etc. We see a lot of interactions like this, for instance. And the biggest event of the year, which is, I think, something that is worth knowing, is the 16th of September. I will not do something commercial, but we just thought that all of the big events like maybe Korea and others are a very important event for the sector to go to. And we go there since 10 years. And the problem is also that they create conversation. So people come to listen and to talk. And we wanted a different kind of event where people come to act. People come to take actions, to decide. And so that's why we created the 87 Day as a sort of gigantic hackathon where we have a list of 24 big problems in city, from affordability, housing crisis, to improve the mobility, the security in cities, thanks to real estate, or a lot of different topics like this one, where we gather 10 captains of industry, CEOs of real estate, investors, PropTech founders, investors, lawyers, and together they have to create a vision and an action plan. And so I think that's the most important thing we do per year. So this is a bit about us. And so we are active in 5 geographies: Belgium, Luxembourg, Spain, Portugal, Czechia, but we are growing a bit everywhere.
And do you see in this ecosystem, do you see big differences between countries? And how can we align in Europe, if we can?
Yeah, so our big narrative when I co-founded the European PropTech Association was that you have 3,500 PropTech solutions in Europe, and you have only around 2,000 in the US. So PropTech, like Europe, had the potential to become the lead ecosystem if it can create a digital single ecosystem, digital single market. But the problem is that it's a super fragmented ecosystem where you have 27 different markets, geographies, industry standards, culture, languages. And so it's very difficult. And so we see companies from larger markets like Germany, France, Spain often struggle to export their activity because of the language, because they were not created as of day zero for international scale. You have a lot of companies from the Netherlands that have a Dutch name that is almost impossible for a French person to say, to pronounce. So it's a real barrier for internationalization. And we see that the most successful companies are often coming from the smaller markets because they were forced as of the zero to think about global expansion. But we see a big difference in the appetite for innovation based on the market condition. So it means there is a big step back toward innovation in France because there is big crisis, a lot of developers close to bankruptcy, especially residential, lesser capital market transactions in office as well. Germany was very severe crisis as well. Luxembourg is also struggling. Luxembourg was for the past, until 2023, it was for more than a decade, super crazy business. Just you dig a hole and people call you to buy the apartment. You don't need to market anything. It's people calling right away, I want to buy, I want to buy. So a lot of investors, which currently have disappeared. So now they really struggle to sell. And so there is a market correction and contraction of the market. So it's way smaller than it used to be. So the bar is higher. And so there is less budget for innovation as well. So we see in these markets that a lot of companies consider innovation as a nice to have now. They don't want to focus on the external world. They don't want to interact with startups anymore. They want to do an introspection. They want to focus on horizon zero, so the survival today, not the new market in 2 years, in 5 years. And they also sometimes think that the startup will not really help them anymore. What could help them is maybe universities or industrial players who are more solid. But sometimes corporates think that they will help the startups more than the startup will help them. So this is a bit the mentality you see. But in other markets like Portugal or Spain, where there is no crisis, the market is going really well, flourishing. There is a lot of concerns on topics like energy, because you know that there was a big blackout recently there in Spain and in Portugal for, I think, 12, 16 hours, energy blackout. So no energy available at all. And there is also a lot of climate hazards happening. So big fire, wildfires or floods, or in Valencia, also the flood. And so they are concerned about adaptability. So how can they protect the value of their real estate? How they can be covered against climate hazards. So these are a bit the disparities that we see. And then we have also, last comments, but markets like Luxembourg, even when they had a lot of money, they were sometimes struggling to attract a lot of startups because it's a small market. And it's a bit the same with Portugal. So imagine you have only around 30 PropTech startups based in Portugal, while you have almost 400 based in Spain. So it's more than 10 times bigger. And one thing we forget is that the Middle East, so for instance, Saudi Arabia, is a small Benelux in terms of size of square meters, but it's more than 10 times the construction budget of all Europe. So it's huge. I think now it's a bit slowed down because of the war. Still, they will continue to build a lot, and they have only 5 PropTech solutions based there, according to our data. So it's the highway available there.
Because we're almost, let's say, at the end of our 1 hour, and we'll extend a little bit more. What some, let's say, personal or closing reflections? What has been the hardest part for you personally about building 87 and this ecosystem?
I think it's hard and it remains hard. I think entrepreneurship is the 4 seasons every day. Cry, love. It was Churchill who said that it's sweat, blood, and tears. And so I think sometimes it's just asking, is it still worth it? Are you still motivated? And then you just get one good news that keeps you moving. But a recent conclusion or reminder for me was that, of course, it's a marathon and not a sprint. And so to to remain energized on the long run, you have to do a little bit more of what you like. And so it's very important to have clarity on what is for you life-taking and what is for you life-giving, because you have to do tasks. For some tasks, you have a high passion, and sometimes you have zero passion. And you have tasks where you're very good, you have a lot of skills, and sometimes you have tasks where you have almost no skills. But it's important to be aware that some of the tasks that you do are for you life-giving. They are energizing. They're feeding you. You don't count the hours when you do them. And so it's important to have a little bit of time scheduled in your calendar to do the things that you like, because it will remotivate you. And so for me, that was the learning that, okay, we should not underestimate the importance of the energy that we get from the things we do. Otherwise, we lose performance, we lose sense of purpose, etc. Yeah, it's a bit cliche.
And we'll look back in 20 years. When we'll look back, what do you think will be the biggest turning point for you and for the industry as well?
Oof. For me and for the industry, that all of the companies have a chief 87 officer. So it's a person that is in charge of the relation with 87, that they consider that. And so actually it's important. Of course, I'm saying this as a joke, but I would like every company in construction and real estate in the world to have a person in charge of the relation with us, or with, in general, an ecosystem. And why is it important? Because I think it's an opportunity of shifting from a transaction-based relation to a relation which is based on the long term. And so change the way we consider business interactions in construction and real estate, not as a one-time transaction, but as a long-term relation where relation really matter. And yeah, in 20 years' time, if all of the company could have a chief 87 officer, I think then we somehow achieve success, hopefully.
That's great. And finally, if you could recommend one future guest for our podcast for DT Vector, who would it be and why?
Oh, I have a list of my preferred people in Europe, but which, it's like, if you ask me to choose between my mother and my father or between my kids, okay, I'll hopefully have only one, but one person above the league, certainly Gregory De Werf from Noah. You have many other very interesting people that are also very humble, very busy, with a lot of pressure, a lot of responsibility, but remain often available with no arrogance. And so these are the people that really matter, that can transform your life. These are the mentors for me.
That's great. Thank you. That's all for today's episode of DT Vector. A big thank you to Idriss for sharing your perspective on ecosystem building, innovation, the AI, and the future of our build environment. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, to search Idriss and 87, and to look up maybe it's a platform that can help you to scale up in Europe and maybe, who knows, in the world. Until next time, I'm Eugen Ursu, and it is Data Vector, the platform that is connecting the dots of the built world. Once again, thank you, Idriss, for coming to our pod.
My pleasure.